Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we've got a bit of a mashup today. We're going to do some temple time. Really a mystic ministering. And we'll see how we go with the circle. So just giving everyone a moment to come on and say howdy. All right. Is Facebook going? We're on YouTube today. I've added my YouTube channel as well. So I don't know if anybody prefers to use YouTube. I tend to use Vimeo. A lot of my stuff's on Vimeo rather than YouTube, but I do have a YouTube channel. So we're streaming live to Facebook, all the Facebook pages and YouTube. So welcome, and live here on Vimeo. So one more thing I wish to do is to put the Zoom link. We'll see how we go this time. So if you've got any questions, comments, ponderings that you thought could be answered here, you can pop them in the chat. And we'll go from there. Let me just see. There we go. Restream. Well, does it look like it's going? All right. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, we are here waiting for the host. Okay, I must have put wrong. I give up on the restream thing. All right, we are restreaming. It just says, because I can see myself on Facebook on Numbers Healing Arts, but I cannot get into the chat. I don't know why. So have a breath. Because I just came in from another class. So I'm a little bit in a different space, even though it is connected, because I was learning biblical Hebrew. So we are going to look at that a little bit, not necessarily biblical Hebrew, but a little bit into why, I guess, why I bring all these different ways of knowing together. Why is it important? So for those of you that are regulars and you're on a Facebook, come over to the Zoom. It's the Circle in Grace Zoom that we use every week. So come over. Otherwise, I cannot see you. If you are on Numbers Healing Arts Facebook page, I can see you. So say g'day. I'm looking at you right now. I can't see who you are until you say something. All right. So the people that were here on Tuesday that I spoke to about what I was going to talk to today, you aren't here. So I guess I can talk about whatever I want. And Rebel, you're here, and you missed an awesome, I don't know if you saw the replay. Go back and watch replay from Tuesday, because it wasn't really circle. I went rogue, and I'm most happy when I go rogue. And I think you are too. So I think you will enjoy that one. And so we're going to carry on from that, whether you are interested or not, because I will assume that you will tune out and go and find something more entertaining if this isn't your thing. If it is, welcome, and glad that you could be here. So last week I talked about King Solomon, the Song of Songs, prison poetry from St. John of the Cross, and all these types of wonderful mystical connections. And I did say that this week I would go further into what would you call it? The poem. Now, the poem wasn't the Song of Songs. It was a poem that King Solomon wrote for his mother, or so they say. The mystic understanding of that poem, I can't even find it now, so maybe we won't do that. But we'll do it from my memory. Was that out of the 22 verses of that poem, 19 of them were connected to women of the scriptures. Okay. So there's something about this poem because I keep losing it. And just before I came on, I lost it again. And I had to go a roundabout way to find it. And then I downloaded it again and I can't find it again. There's something about it. So, you know, we're going there whether I can find it or not, because it doesn't really matter. I read the poem. It's on the recording the past Tuesday. So you can go back and listen to that. But the first two lines of that poem, well, the first line is about our great matriarch, Sarah. Do you remember Sarah? Those of you that have done mystic ministering or the monthly mystic connections probably have had a little intro to Sarah, or Sarai, who she was before she was Sarah, and who married Abraham, who was Avraham or Avram before he was Abraham. And you'll notice that, well, if you delve into the mystery of it all, you'll notice that they've all had name changes. Their names are all changed at a certain point in their evolution, which is interesting. I feel it's interesting because some of us have wanted to change our names or have felt that we don't connect to who we are at certain points. And I was saying yesterday, actually, when I was swimming, I said to Eric, I can remember when I used to come on lives and say, I'm the one known as Cynthia, and I'm laughing at it now. But that's who it's like when we go through these developmental stages or conscious evolution or awakening and ascension or our rise to rose or whatever you want to call it. I really do not care. It's the human condition. From one point, number one, so we're going to touch on number one. So this will give you for those of you that, you know, I'm going to go on and on about the Psi experience because that's what we're going into. And I guess if that whole process doesn't call you, you can get glimmers of that. Somebody emailed me. I tried to email her back, but it wouldn't go through. But there's a lady who emailed me last night and said, and this isn't a judgment or anything, but she used the word economical. And I went, I'm expensive, I'm valuable, I'm priceless. There's no economy here, right? I didn't say that, but that's what I thought. And so we should. All of you should too. We are priceless and our wisdom is priceless. Now, that's not to say that you have to always pay, because all of these are free. And so that's where I was going to point her to all the YouTube, the years, like I don't know how many years, over 10 years of recordings and archives. And some of you, I'm looking at some of you here, and you've gone through archives, and some of that stuff is like, wow, I haven't taught that for a long time, like particularly the cosmic stuff. But anyway, touching in on the cosmic stuff, because the one who we call Cynthia, we were talking about, Eric and I were discussing, actually, our client this week said she had a vision of being in a retreat with Eric and I. And I said, funnily enough, because this is what I had been saying to him that we need to do. So I'm just going to go rogue for a bit. I did put mystic ministering. So when you see that, you know I'm going rogue. Okay. when it's circle and temple time, I tend to be a little, but I do have a plan. I want to share this information, and it links to what the Simran Ishnan experience is, or the Sai experience is, because we're working through our evolution in a way that isn't only like numerical and sequential as much as possible, because it really some of it doesn't look so beautifully matched, but when you look at the mystery of it, which I'm going to share a little bit about Sarah, and mainly Sarah because she's 1 and 2, but of this poem, King Solomon's poem. So the only male that comes into the poem is Abraham, okay? But he's the father. And just because, I'm a nerd and I'm learning biblical Hebrew and Aramaic, so the word Abba means father in Aramaic. And so when we look at Abraham, Abba, right, and Avram, so all of this, and not to go into a lesson on that, but speaking of the father, so we call him the father of I do. I say he's the father. I respect him as the father of the main religions. So when, the beloved came and spoke to him, this is Old Testament stuff. People don't talk about it, but I'm a mystic. I go everywhere. There's no stone I'm not open to looking under or looking around or looking at the top or from the sides. Every perspective, which is the number 7, which comes through. It's a diagonal perspective through all the numbers that you are, all the vibration, all the frequencies, all the aspects from coming in at number 1. So let me go back to that story. So somebody said to me about this retreat, and I said, yes. I was just talking to Eric about the love and fear, and how it's not impossible, but it's near impossible to teach you how to navigate that in your lives in a theory or a book or something like that. It's like trauma informed work or trauma, when I worked with foster carers and social workers and whatnot, and I was teaching them how behavior is language. And, part of my job, so I just want to touch on this, so bear with me because it's links to it. Part of my job was assessing foster carers and adoptive parents. And it cost thousands of dollars, and it went over many, many months. And if you didn't think that I lifted every stone and looked around every corner, my boss used to say to me, don't send Cynthia, she'll make them cry. Now he wasn't being mean. He knew that I connected with that family on every level, and there was nowhere that I couldn't find where they were triggered. Why? Think about why. I'm going to tell you, but think about why. Why would I need to know where their pain and their triggers were, where they dysregulate, where their behavior starts to be unconscious? Why would you think I would need to know that? Because if I put a vulnerable, traumatized child with you and they have the radar to just go there because they want to know what's safe and unsafe real quick, and they're going to get under your skin and make you angry, upset, sad, feel how they feel, all the rest of it as soon as they can, so that they know if you're going to kick them out or whatever. They feel more comfortable in the dysregulation. Okay. So going back to the retreat that I was thinking about, because with the social workers, I was saying to my manager, the only real way to take people through is like literally a recruit course, like a boot camp training, like in the army. So I'm ex-military. How we know where we go offline and how to like just get on with the job is to be put in it. You're in it and you're coached through, or your group of people, you know, your section brings you through, right? And there's, you know, all these different ways of doing it. And it's not necessarily breaking them down, because I'm not about breaking people down in a harsh way. I'm about going, okay, feel that. So on Tuesday, we did a little bit of that, but it was with the beloved and holy wisdom. Do you remember? Were you, Nicole? Right? What was I doing? That was gentle. But if you have a fear there, you're going to be triggered. Do you see? So it's real time. And if I'm watching, that's why I like you to come on to the Zoom so I can see you. So when we go through more advanced things, I can see what's going on. I can co-regulate. I can help titrate you. It's like trauma work. I'm telling you, because it's love and fear. And what your fear of love is and your fear of fear is are your beliefs and conditioning patterns from the past. What is Ishnan? Ishnan is the cleansing of the karma. What is Simran? It's the meditative state of awe. It's a high state of consciousness. So through that high state of consciousness, we can start to navigate, you know, so you're consciously aware of your fears so that you can start to it's not even work, befriend them, walk with them, notice them, dance with them, whatever you want to do with them until they no longer have that sting. Okay. So what I was saying yesterday was, you know what, I talked to my boss when I was a trauma therapist and, worked in out-of-home care with the most distressed humans on the planet, really, either end, whether they're the parents or the children, because usually the children were removed because the parents were so traumatized that they were in jail or they were drug addicts or whatever their experience was, right? And navigating, those traumas and those behaviors and assisting with the regulation of that. But if you're going to work with those humans, adults or children, or in any capacity as a professional, many professionals can't regulate their own stuff. So what are they doing? They're making decisions based on their own felt, their own emotion. So if you've got a trauma, if you're working with somebody and it cuts your heart, and you make a decision based on how you feel, mistake. Warning, Will Robinson. Okay. So this is where I learned those skills, having to make huge decisions about little people's lives every day. And even though I felt a certain way, I couldn't go on how I feel. And so when you're working or in your life, whether it's personal, professional, whatever, how you feel is not how you make your decisions. Like, I don't stop loving people because of how I feel. If I commit, I commit. And I navigate the fears that are basically the dysregulation of your nervous system that make you feel something, okay? And I go, all right, I'm conscious that this is happening. It actually happened today. I'm feeling awesome, but I could feel something in the field. And so I say it like this because I'm like, I'm going to address that with this person and say, you know what? There's a fear here and I'm not quite sure what it is, but I'm saying there's a fear here just so it's out because I can feel it and I don't know because I'm not going into it and like doing readings and all that sort of stuff. I can just feel it in the field. Okay. There's something there because I can feel it. And what did I say? When you feel it, like it might be a physical, like a pain or whatever, a head or whatever it is, or it could be an emotion, but it's sort of all felt through the physical anyway, right? So this is becoming a longer story than I thought it needed to be, but I was like, so many people laughed at me in the past. I'm telling you, this was a long time ago when I did this work. But I said, developing a program where they're actually going through the motions as much as they can without, using children. So how would you do that? And I was just starting to get into technology then. So I started to develop a virtual reality boot camp for, professionals and parents, family on one end, so that they could go through in, virtual reality, extended reality, all of those sorts of things, right? And get trained in simulation. And this was before, it's all out there now, but I was doing this well before it just didn't exist. And I was in the UK. I went to the UK and I was working with them, people that are top of, AI and all that now. But back then I was like, can this be done? And they're like, well, it's never been done before. And I was like, well, there's a challenge. And we started to look at it, right? But it would have taken so much money, and that wasn't my journey. But just to let you know that it's like, how do we move through our own, I'm just going to say trauma, or our own emotions, or our own fears. Basically, it's fears, our fears, our love and our fear. How do we do that on our own? It's really difficult, right? So this client, she said, she's been working with me for a while and is extremely on it, and is able to, take that into her family and work with her family. Yet, when we sit down and go through it, there's always more. Why? Because you can only go so far on your own. You can't see it yourself. So I was like, there needs to be. So I'm putting it out there. There's nothing to sign up for yet, right? But I'm like, we need to do this retreat. And it's in person. Why? So you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. And I'm going to tell you the ins and outs of it. I already saw it in my head, but she saw it too, which was the amazing thing. She didn't know exactly what it was, but she's like, I saw you doing this. And I was like, well, funnily enough, I was talking about that yesterday. And what would be an awesome way to assist people, that they come to an awesome place and are literally in there every day, like eating their meals, swimming, going on excursion or whatnot. You're watching for your fears. You're watching for your triggers. You're watching for, and this is the beauty of, it's called sensory motor psychotherapy, but we were trained to look for micro movements, and other people have no idea. They'll say there's no trigger. There always is something before it happens. Your body shows you. There's a behavior, but it might be a little twitch or a little, and some of you that might sound familiar when we're doing trance or connecting with spirit. Like I say to you, it could be a tiny little touch on the, on the nose, or an itch or whatever. It's tiny, small, subtle, felt sense, or you'll smell it, or you'll taste it, or you'll whatever it is. But for the physiology and for trauma, it's the same. It's just the training to know that. Anyway, I've gone way off track. So I'll bring it back. So yes, that's in the field of like, how do you, because people say, oh, I've written this book and all that. Like Eric's got 5 books on this stuff, like, and they're really, really low cost. Like, so, and Nicole, I haven't forgotten, I mentioned it the other day. I've still got to send that one to you. Actually, it's my copy, but I'll get him to sign it and send it to you. So it's on the recording. But you did get the digital, didn't you? You got the digital copy. Yeah. All right. So what I'm saying is there's so much information out there. How do you track that? How do you work it? Like if you read something, how do you put it into practice? And how much practice is enough practice? So anyway, that is what Sai is about. Not necessarily a in-person. It's as close to an in-person, so that we can work on that and discuss it. And I'm monitoring you, like not 24/7. However, you know, I know. Just saying. So yes, and I just want to put here, no pressure. I just want to put it out there. So if you read the link, the landing page, and you've said to me, it's a lot of time. If you come to the Tuesday and Thursday hour classes already, or the circles, right? You could pretty much do 2 hours a week minimum if you wanted to. Or you could do 6 hours. It's totally up to you. So it looks like a lot of work, but the tracking and all of that is so quick. I should get people on that are doing that. I don't think any of you, or if you're watching this and you've done the tracking with me of the energetics, it's a spreadsheet, but all you do, I've filled it all out and everything. All you got to do is go on and do numbers, like put a 5 or a 6 or an 8 or whatever. And then I graph it up for you at the end of the program. You got this beautiful graph, and you can see in it. You can see. So those of you that are coming on, you'll get that. But you'll be able to see what your energetics are doing, right, in relation to what you're working towards, in relation to how you feel on the emotional, physical, mental, spiritual levels. So all of that is tracked, but it's as simple as going, I send you the spreadsheet, you know, you can see what I put in it, I can see what you put in it, but only individually, you know, for that private work. And it's like, you know, 1, 5, 7 or whatever, you know, takes like 3 minutes. 3 minutes. What my job is to correlate and look at that. The time is mine, not yours. So every time I put up a chart, and I'm still doing this for my brother, I looked at his this morning. So when he has his chemo, it's like it goes way out, and you know, different levels, different rounds of chemo, and all the rest of it. And he's come back. He's only got one little thing out now, but because it's stronger chemo, right? So it went out, and then we align it, it goes out, and we align it, and it comes like this. And the graph shows that. So it's sort of like long-term research with him. But for some of you, and you don't need to do Psi to have that, but I can only do a handful of people a month, purely because it takes me half the day to do all the tracking for 5 people, right? So I'm not going to take more than 5. So if people that come on to Psi, they take those 5 places, then they're gone, because I just can't spend all day, every day tracking, right? You don't have to do anything. All you've got to do, other than, yes, you do, other than monitor, you know, okay, how do I feel today? And in those areas, and number them 1, 7, 10, 0. And I'm doing the energetics, right? But if you're in Psi as well, then you get all of this other monitoring and the cross-referencing. Like you can't, it's like on every level. Minimal time. The time, majority of the time is me doing the work, and that's why it costs what it does. Do you understand? Right? Because you think about, I'm scanning, then I'm aligning the energies, then I'm documenting them for you, and then I'm thinking and feeling and observing into the data to go, what else am I being shown for that particular person? Which the last handful of people I did was really interesting, because I was able to say, I noticed on this day, over the weeks, it's always on a Thursday, something goes out. What's going on? And they're both of them, those two young men, right? Or younger than me anyway, so that's young. And there were things happening, right? So either they were going out, or their partner came over those days, or whatever it was. And it wasn't necessarily what you would think, but noticing the graph, right? And the energies, and going, okay, well, we're realigning, but it's going out every week here. So what else is going on? Or we've got you solid for the last 3 weeks, and now, you know, that 1 or 2 things have gone out of the blue. So what's going on? And it's depending, you know, I can link it. So usually what I do is I don't do readings as such on that, but I feel it, right? So I might say, it feels like it's to do with your work, and contemplate this. So I will never tell you what it is necessarily, but I'll say, contemplate this. And I might get a hit that it's around your boss, or you know, there's something around work or relationship or whatever, right? And assisting with those waves in an everyday life, right? All right, so what I wanted to talk about today, pardon me, how much time we got left. If you've got any questions, you can pop them in. But it's interesting just to know that that's possible. To me, I nerd out on this stuff. I nerd out on the graphs, believe it or not, right? When I go analytical, I just go all in. It's like graph. I've got colored graphs, 3D, like, you know, it's awesome. You know, the chakra ones, the meridian ones, and then I do, so just let you know, I do the meridians, the chakras, and the vortices, earthing, and polarity. They're the main things that I'm tracking every day, because there's so much. It would like take me all day to like go through everything. But they're the main things, because I've noticed that, anyway, I won't go into it. There's reasons why I track those things for that Walk with Grace program. All right, let me read this chat. Can you put in the chat where both of you are from? I think there's only 2 of you on here. Just put in the chat. So like what state you're from. Private message me. I think I know, but there's a reason. Okay. There's reason for my asking. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So I might be in one of those places next month. That's all I'm going to say. So spirit moment thing. Oh, you heard that? How did you hear that? Did you hear by like in the on the replay? Did I say it? Okay. So anything that I just rambled on about there, I must have put it out. I don't know what I talk about half the time. All right. Going back to Sarah, going back to these this poem, going back. Well, it is all about these programs, right? Whether you choose to do them or not. All of this information is based on that, right? So if we were going to look at the numbers and cross-reference them, I mean, there's so much to the 1 and the 2. But I picked it up from Sarah and Abraham. And And I guess, where do I want to start with that? If you're in the program, I'm going to go deep into the correlations and then how that is within your system, your energy system, your physical system, and how you can use these references that are in ancient texts. I'm going to say ancient texts. I mean, I guess that is the scriptures, because even in Kundalini Yoga, if we talk about the guru of number one, which is Guru Nanak, he references the ek, or the beginning, right? Number one in sort of that numerology is the beginning, or incarnating, right? Incarnating. And when I was thinking about this today, what you've got to understand is it's not sequential. It's not so sequential. It's not like you can go and get a book on this and this and this and cross-reference them that simply. Of course not. Otherwise, would I be interested? Probably not. In the, what would we say? In the right, well, we're not going there. Okay. Just looking at that. All right, so we've got Guru Nanak, right? The founder, the quality, humility, right? So one being incarnated, right? The ek. So those of you that hear the holy ek, the holy naam, the ek onkar is another, I mean, that's a sort of, I don't know whether they're a religion or what, but they follow the ek. The ek is what I've heard for probably half my life, which is the sounds of the spheres. It's one of the sounds, the ek. So this being is connected to that beginning. And so in our mantra, if you're into sort of Kundalini, it comes from the Mul mantra, and the first part of the mantra is ek. And we go ek, right? That's Guru Nanak. It's about humility. It's about incarnation, coming in. But on the other end, which I've got to try and pull it all together, on the other end is the 9. So we go 1 to 9, and the 10 is all encompassing, right? The 9. So if we go 1 through our incarnation to the 9 to spirit, we can always go back around. You see, it's like a circular thing to spirit being connected to 1, because it hasn't incarnated yet. So 1 and 9 are connected. There's the incarnation, which is 1, and then there's the connection to the soul, spirit. So 1 in Kundalini Yoga, or that out of the 10 bodies, is the soul body, right? And there's all of these ways of building the soul body. There's all these ways of working with the chakras. And if we looked at what chakra we would generally associate with it, but this is generalized, we would go the root chakra, right? Number 1, which is between the perineum and the sex organ. But what that does and how that relates to Sarah in King Solomon's poem, are any of you following me? Like I'm telling you, it all links. but I obviously am not giving you a whole lesson. I'm pulling just pieces of it, right? So this is what you would learn in the theory of the psi experience, this type of theory, right? In the practices, you'll be doing the practices directly related to what I'm talking about and how they connect to your evolution, your conscious evolution, or your rise to rose, the stages of development of the, in that terminology of the feminine. So the holy wisdom, so Tuesday we talked on holy wisdom, or the feminine aspect of the beloved, although there is not really masculine and feminine, but let's just say there was the drop from the union to the drop. So we have the feminine aspect here on earth, whether you're a man or a woman, you are the feminine aspect to the beloved. But when the Shekinah or the holy wisdom or the great mother rests within you, you've activated these systems to such a degree that it's, I was going to say it's profound, which it is, but that's not the word I was looking for. You feel it, you are it. And when you speak as one. And so that's why when you start moving through these stages of development, there's the spiritual, there's the ego, there's different levels of ego, let's just say it like that. There's the different levels of ego, right? So the general ego, the spiritual ego, and then the unconditional ego, right? So that's what we're talking about, unconditional love, is that unconditional ego. It's beyond all of that. And navigating that relates to your love and fear, or the conditions and beliefs that you're walking with, okay? And why there needs to be a process of being aware or conscious of those and working with them. Keep saying working with them. It's not work as such, it's practicing in your daily life. You really cannot, I mean, I'm open to being corrected. What will happen if you miss those middle steps, which a lot do? We want to jump. We want to jump. The foundations aren't strong. Some of you may have felt this. There's no shame. I'm sure I've done that 1,000,001 times, maybe 1,000,002, because I just wanted to go direct. I just wanted to be with the beloved, right? And so I'm jumping the human aspect. And I didn't want to be embodied. I didn't want to be the human. And I almost had a, what would you call it? A frustration, I guess, is the best one. It's not. It's like I felt, trying to feel the word. It was like I felt the human was holding me back. So whatever word that is, if you can think of a word that fits that, it's not quite a frustration. It's like, if you could get your stuff together, we would be there. Right? How many of you had that? Just put it in the chat or let me know. Some of you that have been in the recent programs have had that. Like when the fear comes up, and those fears are there to keep you close to where you are, because the fear is there. You're not consciously aware of it. So you're like, yeah, I want this, and I want that, and this is the goal, and I want to, whatever it is, I don't know what your wants are. What do you want? How do you want to be in the world? And this relates to Sarah. And it also relates to this number and this stage, this state. Because when it's weak, when it's not worked, when you're not aware of it, you have no real direction of what you're to do. Right? And it's not like, oh, yeah, I've done a lot of work, so I don't need to go there. Come and see me. In fact, no, I won't say. I was going to say, come and see me for free. Like, I will do a free session with you if you feel that. And I all hats to you. But what I'm saying is, you go round and round and round, because once you think you've gone through, you go again and again and again. All of these different levels of understanding. Now, the women in the scriptures and the gurus, like the gurus from 1 to 10. So Guru Nanak is number 1. They all have aspects. Guru Nanak is humility, and it's related to the ek, the first, the incarnation. But it's also, there's the polarity, right? So we've also got the 9, which is, the other end, and how they work together. And so when we come in at 1, we've also got to acknowledge 9, those aspects, which I'm not going to talk about today, but just know that because we have to then learn how to be here. That's what I'm talking about. Do you understand? I know I go round in circles because I'm circular, not linear. And that's the mystic way. So, but if you don't get it, or there's something you really want to get, pull me back, because I can be the circle and the line, because that's the integration of the Divine Mother, Divine Father. That's the crown. When so I know that's a little bit coded if you haven't done any of the or heard me before, but the ones that I can see, I know that you know what I'm talking about, right? We're working towards that, not only supreme, what we would call supreme equality of the man and woman, the masculine and feminine standing face to face in their sovereignty. But we're talking about beyond that. And that can't happen, that face to face, without the working through. There are bits where you will, I was going to say kamagatsa, that's an Australian term for be hit, and stuff's going to be in your face. When you're consciously aware, which, the all of these texts and scriptures and deities and talk about, they don't only talk about it, they are it. They are it in the world. You choose one of them and read their story. Choose one of them and read their story. You may, caveat to that, if you read it surface, you may not see it. But if you read it from a mystical lens, and that's, what I try to uncover for you, because once you have that, you'll see it. It's a lens. Now, how do you get that lens? It's through working through the systems or the numbers or the women or the gurus or the chakras or the whatever you want to call it. Make sense? So how does Sarah, and I can't believe I cannot find that. I pulled it up again just before I came on, and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, let me just see. No, it hasn't downloaded. Let me just see if it's on here. If I find it, I will read you the... I wasn't supposed to talk about it today, but anyway, it's the, and I don't know it off by heart, that poem, so I guess we're not going to talk about it today. That's okay, I might come on another day, but basically, I'm going rogue, and The first part is around the relationship with Sarah and her husband. And I would love to go deeper into that, but suffice to say that, let me see where we could go with it, that she wasn't able to have children. And that happens with a lot of women in the scriptures. So I don't know if you know that. They're barren, or sometimes it says there's no womb. So Sarah was one of those women. And because she couldn't give Abraham a child, he had a child with, that's a whole nother story. He had a child with the help, let's say, the staff, right? Well, Sarah knew, she was the one who set it up, all of that. Okay. Long story short there, she ended up having a child. I think she was 98 or something like that. You know, she was old. Sorry, all of those that are 98, but you know, you have a child at 98. I don't know. Have a child in my 50s. I don't know about that. But it's done. All right. So it's this story about, so I'm going to tell you this because I'm not going to go over the story. You can go and just read it. But how it relates to the first chakra. So the first chakra is about elimination. It's about survival. It's about stabilization. There's so many different ways of looking at the root chakra, right? So how Sarah came to where she got to as a matriarch, and so this is what I will go into further in the teachings, but to come from where she was to become a matriarch is a particular journey, right? What she had to do was receive. She could receive, what's another word for that? Not consume, but I'll just say receive, right? To get to a place where she could discern. So if you're taking notes, write down discernment, because Sarah shows us discernment. She shows us that at that level that she worked towards, and that's what we'll be learning, that she was able to make discernment into what to hold on to and what to release, right? The root chakra is about letting go, excreting, you know, letting go of stuff. On one level. So we could link it over. Let me just get my little notebook out. If we look at the Sephira, or the tree of life, right? We've got Bina, which is understanding. It's the brain as well. Like there's the left and right brain, but this is the left brain. Discriminating and intelligence. And there's a whole way of understanding how you get to Bina from the knowing, or the dat, or the das, or the da'at, which is at the neck, right? So if some of you may read that Sarah is at the bottom, she's one, but on the tree, one is not one, right? Where does it start? Does it start at the bottom, at the royal crown, right? The Malkut, which is at the bottom of the tree. So some of you know this, you know, remember, is it ringing bells that what seems to be at the bottom, at that, when you can see, when you have that vision, you can see that what's at the bottom is actually the top. So So Sarah is a matriarch that we, no matter what religion you are, shows us the journey. You don't have to be any religion. I'm not. I'm a mystic. I'm not any particular religion. But she shows us the way to a degree. So those of you that know Esther, Queen Esther had so much respect for Sarah because Sarah had shown the way for the rise of the feminine. Right? So we could talk about the men. That would be a lot longer conversation. And the men are generally talked about. And that's why I'm talking about the females. But it's, you know, the men have their role too within there. Like I've talked about the guru, but we could talk about the men in the tree of, that represent aspects of the tree of life, like the masculine aspects, because it's half masculine, half feminine. But ultimately, it's all the divine feminine, because she's the one that comes into us for that rise, for that walk, for that journey back to her beloved, for the union, right? So you think of awakening and ascension, or, you know, full self-realization, or just being sovereign within yourself, how, whatever you're, I don't know why you're here. Why do you come here? Why do you sort of listen? Do you just stumble across me and think, oh, nothing better to do, I'll listen to this, you know, this woman with the strange accent, not quite sure where she's from. I don't know. I don't know where I'm from either. So it's probably just a lot of information thrown at you right now. But really what it's about, you just bring it back to the sequencing of all this information that's out there, and all these ancient ways of knowing that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and we're still not seeing what they're saying. Or if we do see what they're saying, we don't know what to do with it. Like, so what? You're telling me that Sarah was a matriarch. So what? Well, where does she and Abraham sit on the tree of life? Do you just see the tree of life as an awesome geometry that you can wear on a t-shirt? Or do you see it as a living, vital geometry within the human species? That is actually, when you look down it, it's not as it seems. So if you're looking, anyway, that's a whole nother, right? That's a whole nother story. The geometries are within us. I see the geometries. This is how it first came to me. I see this stuff. It comes in and I'm like, oh, what's that? What are you showing me? Right? And now the women. So Sarah came in a while back now, and she helped me write my vows. She helped me understand my own rise into, you know, some of the highest, I guess you would say, the highest teachings as a human, right? How to understand that, and then how to be that. So going up the mountain. So when you hear me talk about going up Mauna Kea at 14,000, is it? No, 9,000 feet, and then hearing the deity of that place allowing us to go up higher to 14,000 feet. And the relationship to the story of Abraham and Sarah on that spiritual, energetic life force understanding, like the bitter to the sweet. You know, there's all this way of understanding, but people read it and they don't know what it means and how to live it, right? So when Sarah came in, some of you have heard about it when she, really started coming in. I started to talk about a circle and the crown and what the circle, all this information about the circle, and not wanting to wear a ring. I generally don't wear a lot of jewelry, right? I used to, it's everything's frequency, but the ring, and when you put the line into the ring, there's a reference for a lot of things, but it's also the crown. And when you stand face to face, both wearing the crown, and what that means. So a lot of, probably more questions than answers. Let me just see. Scanning. Because what I wanted to tell you, I can't find. So I trust it, because I kept losing it. It just kept going and going and going. Let me just read you something. There's something here about the numbers. So as the number 10 is a unity containing the 9, right? So 1 to 9 is within the 10, which is the unity. So the light of the gurus, which was the same light, nonetheless revealed itself through the 9 distinct jewel-like beings. So I'm just going to leave that to your interpretation. But if you do the class, I'll interpret it for you. Or even the 9 facets of the same pure crystal clear diamond. Consider them as divine intelligences, guides and guiding principles. Guides and guiding principles. Okay. They are not archetypes with ego personalities. They're not agendas playing their astral games through the human social drama. These divine intelligences continue to prevail in the subtle space beyond the astral mind field, the Maya field, the magnetic field. And when we call on them with humility, number one, when we call on them with humility and sincerity, they make themselves available. Think about what we did on Tuesday. So they serve to give our lives meaning and direction. There is a natural magic in the support they provide when we make great and noble choices in our lives. So this is more about the gurus. And there's the 10 going into 11 and 12, but the 10 gurus, and then we go into how they're us, we become, right? So it's not about being outside of yourself. Guru Nanak was about the ek and awakening that within us. It's not about some guru you're worshipping out there. Sarah and Abraham. Well, we're talking about Sarah today because the relationship to the poem, King Solomon's poem, and the women of the scriptures is about discernment, being able to decide and discern what to hold and what to let go. So by having that, she was able to merge and be and surrender in her marriage to Abraham. That light became so like the emanation of both of those guiding lights, or emanations, were because they were able to, there's so much more to it, but in a nutshell, if you wanted to have that. There's a story about this is so off topic, but it's related. Mosquitoes, right? So did you know that when a mosquito feeds, it has no elimination? So it'll feed and feed and feed until it explodes and dies. There's no elimination. So it's not deciding whether to feed or not. It's just feeding, 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 and then it dies. Just see the importance of that discernment for elimination. If you're not able to get rid of, eliminate, which is, the elimination of the root chakra, right? The bowels, the bladder, the secretions, or even in your own life, who to have in your life and who not to, who's safe, who's not. Are you scared? Is there a survival or where's the stabilization, right? So what Sarah gives us, amongst other things, I mean, I could teach a whole year just on Sarah, but I'm trying to link it to today's number one, because she's also on the tree. She's also way up there at Bina, right? Which is that discriminating intelligence. And that's what she gives us. So if we don't have that, we can't have that. Do you see how it's like the 1 and the 9? It's it's both ends, right? It's both ends. So in one way of looking at it, it's the 1 and the 9. So in the yogic traditions, we would say the 1 and the 9. But in other traditions, we'd use other cross. That's why they don't quite line up. It's the circle and the line. It's this cross-referencing where they fit. How do we learn from them? Why is it important? Why is it important? So you don't want to consume until you die. You want to eliminate. And it's like, what are you going to cleanse? And if you can't cleanse, then I don't want to say you're going to stay where you are as if that's a bad thing. But there needs to be that deciding what to cleanse, what to clean, and what to keep, what to build, discernment. So, all right, rising into your potential. And links to the soul body. So I went round and round. I don't even know. I'm going to take one more. I know you've got to go, Rebel. Oh, she's gone. Okay. I've got no idea what happened to that. But, all right. We're not meant to go over it. I do have it on my phone, but I'll probably So any questions while I do this, and then we're going to wrap up. We are going to wrap up. So if you would like to not only learn more in depth about the sequential theory, not the all over the shop roundabout, because I'm just touching on points to get you to think. To get you to think and see. It's so bizarre. Oh, here we go. So number one of the poem is true couplehood. And the poem's verse was, a woman of valor who can find. So they're saying, where can we find a woman of valor? Far beyond pearls is her value. So a woman of valor is more precious than pearls. And we touched on the mystic understanding a little. But on the second one, we'll just do that quickly while we're here, is the secret of wealth. So the second part of the poem is: the heart of the husband trusts in her, and they lack no bounty. They lack no bounty. And I touched on, cosmically, the Jewish people are the divine feminine, the feminine aspect of, or the Shekinah, of the beloved. So we're here on earth. We're not able to fully receive that holy wisdom within us. There's a process. But once we do, and that's part of our evolution, once we do, she, it, then we are on that full connection back to the beloved for that relationship. It's the coming back. Oh, this is a pretty important part that I forgot. But I can't tell you everything. You'll learn more in the classes. But so when Eve, you got Adam and Eve, or Adam and Hava, and there's multiple Havas, and then there's Lilith, but that's a whole other story. All these other, women or feminine aspects. But when Eve dropped to then work her way, where the other women came in, there's a lot of them. Rachel, Leah, Rivka, Ruth, Sarah, Esther. It goes on and on. But they're all aspects of that journey back. They all hold the quality, like what I just read. They hold the qualities or the emanation. So those emanations on the tree of life, they're like emanations of the beloved. And we're here pulling back the sparks that have been scattered. And each generation is working towards that realization, right? So could you look in your history? I've done that. I'm just going to trust. But anyway, I found it now. It's on my phone. It just means I can't watch the Facebook. But yeah, so cosmically, we are the bride, and the beloved is the groom. And so that's why, my climb up the mountain and all of that was to do with, at one level, connecting, and then being able to go to the highest level, which is technically the highest point, from point to point on earth. That's where I was. I think there's two ways of saying it. So Mount Everest is highest from end to end, but Mauna Kea is higher from point to point, or vice versa. I can't remember now. But that's where I was on the 8th of August, doing those ceremonies that relate to Abraham and Sarah. But it's really about the circle and the line. So the feminine and the masculine coming back together in that sacred union, in that divine union, and like what that really means. They're not just words that are thrown around, right? So, these are more intense or more in-depth teachings take you into that, help you understand how that's playing out in your life and how you can bring it into your life in a more conscious way, right? You don't have to do all the weird and wonderful things I do. That's, I do that so that I can just tell you. But there's, in your everyday life with your children, or, work or family or friends or whatever, like, what are these aspects and how are you, like, where are you at, and what are you needing to get to that next space? And it's not necessarily linear, because you can sort of go back and forth. It's like a weaving. I see it as a weaving of the tapestry, right? It's a dance. And you continue to do that until, right? So Sarah was able to achieve some of what Eve wasn't or hadn't. And Esther then looked at Sarah, Queen Esther. That's a whole nother story. We'll get to Esther. Esther's not today. Just know that Esther revered Sarah for the work that she had done as the matriarch to get to that space that she did, because Sarah went through the hells. She was living the hell realms, that woman, like, you know, but she was able to discern. So discernment between those two children. So you can go and look at the story, but so much more, being clear, being able to be clear and going, yep, no, in, out, off, right? Many of us don't have that clarity. You're not there yet, but it's okay. Know that there's a journey, and our foremothers and fathers are there, have been there, will be there to guide us. But it's about being open. So Tuesday, I had you sit and call in holy wisdom, right? And just keep doing that. Holy wisdom rests in me. Holy wisdom. I said before that when you connect in those subtle realms, right, they're all there. They are an aspect of you. And when we integrate them, they're no longer out there. They are you. You hold the aspects, the qualities that they have, right? But until then, they're showing you the way. So I'm going to wrap it up. I've been going for a while. I know if I ask you, Nicole, is there anything that, but maybe, because I know that you take notes and whatnot, but is there anything that I left undone? Because I went all over the shop, but that's how it works. It's like, there's this piece, you know, Sarah, discernment, being able to excrete and consume, right? Which links to the chakras in a particular way. I mean, she links to other ones as well. The number one also links to the soul body, and, you know, the soul coming in to the human experience, having to navigate that. What else? There's a lot. If you do the training, you'll get all of it, but I just want to know for this little snippet, what parts you might have missed. So I'm just going to look at my notes for a moment, see what. It also relates to, so I guess this is connecting the guru to the feminine, is the heart and the head. So being able to merge the two, right, through that discernment, but also through the soul body. So why Sai has the creative aspect, which is pretty important. I did make a note here, but you know me, I don't look at my notes. Do you want to see my notes? There you go, handwritten notes. I never look at them. So I've got here the soul body. So the type of how you would look at that is the the soul body or your life being a creative flow from soul's purpose, right? If there's blocks there, if there's if it's not strong, then it's really difficult to create. And so why is the first module vision, and have that visioning and the creative process starting, just little bits of creative process, because it links to the soul body's ability to flow and that creation to flow, that connection to your infinity. Where's my little infinity? There it is. Connection to infinity, right? The 0 point with a twist connects to that. So it's about living by heart, not just head. So these are all qualities and aspects, but if you look at them more, humility, living with heart, not just head, right? Humility. So the, why we bow, we whatever. At the end of my practice, I bow with my head on the floor and my hands above my head. Why? We don't have to, but that's the humility, right? You bow to the teacher, the guru within you, right? I am the teacher, so whatever. We also bow low for humility, showing humility, and that links to the gurus as well. So creating flow, the purity, humility and creativity come from this place. So if you are finding humility and being creative difficult, then this might be the start place. Or at least, go back over and pull out some key words and maybe ask questions. So you are linked with your own infinity, that you can relax into the flow of God's energy, of the beloved's energy, and use it to create beauty in your life. So when that's not strong, this is not strong in your life, right? So your soul is the individual expression of the spirit, and the soul, contains the basic nuclear energy of you. The basic nuclear energy of you. So your fundamental, your foundational self, the nuclear energy, like the first spark. But we also know, well, maybe you don't, but I'll share it with you, that the nuclear fission that is required for that rising of the Kundalini energy within you, right? That's nuclear energy as well. It's fission. It's a heat, like that propensity. Is that a word? I think it feels like a word. Anyway, so if the soul body's weak, you feel stuck. You're not able to access your purpose. So many of you don't know what you want to do, don't know who you are, don't it's just the truth. I'll ask you, what do you want? I don't know. Why are you here? Why are you here? I don't know. And that's okay. It took me a long time to know. But it's that building, right? So you don't have that creative flow. So it's like you're just going along. And that's okay if that's how you want to be. I'm not judging you. I'm saying if you're watching this, you may be interested in how to fulfill the purpose that you're here. And that can shift and change the how that is, what do you call it? How that is, it's like the mechanism of how that is. So I'm doing what I'm here to do, but I may do it in different ways. I could write, I could teach, I could do Facebook Lives, I could do in-person workshops, whatever, a creation, paint. It, you know, the mechanism or the package that it comes in may be different. But what it's all about is why I'm here, right? So if we look at the root chakra, or an aspect of it, because there's so much really, that question of security and survival, but also the area of self and self-reversal. So we do look at restoring, right? Aspects of yourself, how to restore that. You can do that through creativity, through writing. There's lots of different ways. We get all different aspects of the brain on board so that you can do that in a way that creates transformation, true transformation. And then you got survival or self-destruction, or your, you know, survival and your sabotage. So talking about alignments, when we hold things we don't need. So I was talking about elimination, holding on, letting go. So constipation, or you get the runs, right? It's to do with large intestine as well. That energy, but the weight, the waste holds you down, right? Your stuff holds you down, holds you back, holds you heavy. So it's all to do with that too. And we tend to go to fear, insecurity, depression, self-sabotage, those sorts of things, resist activity. So when aligned, what are we? Steady, stable, and a sense of groundedness, to name a few. But I'm going to round up now. I'm going to go to the beach and send off your circling grace, because we're well over time, so we're not going to do that. But I do it every day anyway, in the ocean. So you can pop your intention of the name in, or message me, and I'll take it in a moment, because usually 5 o'clock, that's when I go, and it's 1 minute to 5. So if you would like to come and journey these numbers, these 10 months, these 10 bodies, these 10 aspects and qualities. Well, there's more than 10, but we're starting there just to get you in a habit. Each one has meditations, mantra, ways of knowing, energetics that are specifically for that place that we're at through the 9 months into the 10th, which is the retreat, the creativity retreat. So not sure whether that confused you more or less. A lot of information in a small amount of time, but you can take a piece of it and then go Google it, or take a piece of it and get your questions so that you can ask me, right? So King Solomon talked about these qualities within the poem to his mother. All the ancient texts talk about these qualities in some way, shape, or form. The chakras are purely just a way, or they're an energy vortex, whatever you want to call them. Again, no. Yes, to his mother, the mother. Yes. Well, in the mirroring, there's different ways I talk about mirroring, but there are 7 core ways of mirroring. And one of them is just that, looking at how you are with your human mother and father, whether they're here or not, and what that shows you about your relationship with the divine mother and the divine father. That's one way you can look at it, but there's multiple ways and different levels of, you know, when someone's in front of you, right? But ultimately, I generally go to, okay, if I feel disrespected, if that's a fear, I'll go, how am I disrespecting the beloved? Like I just straight away go there, because that's the relationship that's important to me. The relationship with Holy Wisdom and the beloved. And I actually did this the other day it was Tuesday. Or was it no, I think it was Monday. And I was like, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm like sitting in a circle and doing this, that, and the other. But what's my relationship to Holy Wisdom? And I sat with her, and that's why I brought it in on Tuesday, because I teach how I am. I model the mystic ways. So what I bring to you is what I'm doing, right? It's what I'm doing in some way, shape, or form. So Sarah was, a couple of years ago, where she walked with me, and Abraham, but it's mainly Sarah. And then some of you were with me when I started to teach about Esther, when she came in and started walking with me and telling her story, right? And, all that. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. We do have some recordings. And we'll eventually have a membership up where you can find some of the more in-depth teachings from calls that I've done in the mystic musings and mystic ministry and all the different ones that we've done. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up now. All right, I instantly knew you sat with her when watching you, familiar energy. Yeah. That's awesome, isn't it? Because you can feel it, I'm not sure whether you felt it or you can just see it or what that was, but that's a really good mirroring for you and for me. It's like, okay, because that links to the Kundalini energy. That links to, if you're working on your awakening, your awareness, your conscious evolution, and you're not in relationship with what this is a whole nother talk. Maybe I might come on and do it tomorrow, because I have so many stories about this, so I'm not going to go into it now, but just suffice to say that if you pray or if you sit or if you're, even if you're, doing, a reading for someone in some way, shape or form through your intuition, right? There's different levels of intuition. You'll get information, but when you get information, you know the difference. And the information at that level may not really say anything for anybody because it's so beyond. And so you may want to go back or hold yourself back so that you can baffle people with your BS, right? Your big spirit, I don't know. Right? Some may be doing that and you don't even know it, right? You've worked your way into a corner. I've seen so many do it, that you go into mediumship or any of those and you stay there and you're not open to integrating all of those aspects so that you are that. You don't need to sit for an hour or whatever. You just are that. And sometimes we forget. So here's a reminder for some of you that might have forgotten who you are and what you can be, like your potential. And just sit with the mother, the Holy Wisdom, the mother of all mothers, right? The mother of all mothers. Ooh. Yeah, she is, right? Feel? You know the difference when somebody's just doing their thing, when they're tapped in to that flow of creativity, and the Kundalini is pure creative energy. It's what creates humans. It's what creates creation, right? So whatever your belief systems are and whatnot, it doesn't matter. You're all welcome. It's about finding ways, for me anyway, finding ways to help you understand. And really, it's so simple. It's just that. You can go and pray and do all these wonderful things, but it'll be empty. And if I come and sat beside you, I could just do it online too, right? We did it, didn't we? In mediumship, in the ISP. And you would sit and be doing a reading. And I can see, I can feel, I can see. And I'd be like, no, go deeper, go there. Like, this is what came in. Did you get it right? That's the same thing. And some of you that have been training and practicing and whatnot can see where I am or where other people are. Like when we're really in that and when we're not. And when we're not, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's always there. It's just sometimes it's like the love affair is just on fire, right? It's just on fire. So actually, you've just put that there with the flames. You can see it. Yeah. So when you pray, when you go in circle, when you do any of your work, just check where you are. Just check where you are. Call her in or call him in. Talk to God. Talk to whatever connection you have. I've been dancing with the beloved for a while now, and I was like, where's Holy Wisdom? Where's she? Let's just see where she's at. Why? Because I'm still on earth. I'm still here. I'm still here. So we're learning to, or what I was saying Tuesday, we die in a way. We no longer need to die to have that relationship, right? It's not about having to die to be connected or to have that relationship. We can have the relationship while we're still embodied. And then when we go into our infinity, we have that relationship. So, all right, wrapping it up now. I'm going for a swim. Much love. See you when I'm looking at you next. And if you're interested in programs, let me know. We've got, we've still got about, I think we've got 6 places left, something like that. So still time. We start in July, so get in there. Tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Friday? Is it Friday? Maybe. We'll see. All right. Yeah, just watch the replay. There you go. You'll find me everywhere. All right. Much love. Ciao.